Hi, my name is Kip Tu with the law firm Ice Miller, here with my partner Mark Schublack. We're going to talk to you today about how you can help the Indiana Economic Development Association be better lobbyists at the State House.
We appreciate you spending time watching this video. The Economic Development Association over the last several years has had very promising and good legislative outcomes, but going forward, we're going to have new challenges and we need your help in the district with legislators. This video will teach you some fundamentals about how you can help us and the Economic Development Association at the State House. So let's get to it.
So once again, thanks for joining us. We're going to go through a couple of slides here, hopefully give you some more information about how to be an effective advocate for the Indiana Economic Development Association. First thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about what a lobbyist is. It's kind of funny here, you know, lobbyists are the people who hire to protect us from the people we elect. But it's actually somewhat of a fairly serious statement in some regards. The Indiana General Assembly is such a place where you have 150 people who have other jobs, and so they are not experts in everything that comes before them, and so they need people who are experts to advocate on behalf of their associations. And so we really do need protection from them because there's a lot of ignorance out there. And more importantly, if you're not advocating for yourself, then someone else is going to be taking you on. And so this slide, I think, tells the story. If you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. Mark?
So focusing on ways to approach legislators, first and foremost, be professional. We know that some of these issues have an impact on your business, but it's very important to set aside that emotion and just address legislators in a very professional manner. It's also true that legislators are hearing both sides of a story, and frequently there are two sides of the story. So please disclose both sides of the story. Obviously, the positions we're advocating, we think, carry more weight, and we have to describe those reasons, but in so doing, also describing the other side of the story. You should understand that when dealing with legislators, being accessible is very important. So providing a cell phone or other means for them to contact you on their schedule is the most important. They're running around in committee meetings on the floor, and when they get a chance to call, it's important that you're accessible. Your word should be your bond. This is sort of the bottom line in the State House. We deal in information, and we are sharing information with legislators about why to make a certain public policy decision, and we need to be 100% truthful with any information we convey. And for the most part, all of our legislative issues are nonpartisan issues. So regardless of your party affiliation, don't let that leak out in your conversations and stick to the issues. Obviously, it's very important to know the issue. So, you know, there are resources through the Economic Development Association website. Kip, Lisa, myself can be called on to educate you, and the IEDA Legislative Committee members can also help you brief in on issues. In addition, there is the IEDA weekly newsletter. So it's important to get educated on our issues and then be able to present the whys and wherefores of our positions. This process is one where you can't hide anything. So just act like you're speaking to someone from a newspaper, and your speech is going to be reported on the front page. I mean, always say thank you to legislators. In this day and age, it's so easy to be critical of elected officials, but they are trying to do the best for their communities, and I think it's important you recognize that in every interaction you have with legislators. Kip?
The other thing we want to emphasize is that it's a long process, and it's very important that the first time a legislator hears from you isn't when they're back up in session, during session, when they're really inundated with lots of information. And it's really building a relationship with that legislator during the off season, as we call it, during the time that they're not in session. So it's important. These bullets kind of take you through some of that, but you want to find out what your local legislators are interested in, what kind of events they attend, know as much about them as you can before meeting them, and then try to meet them where they are. They try to attend as many events in their district as possible. If you can attend some of those events, that's obviously very important. If you can build a relationship back in the district with them, it's a critical thing. You know, you need to let them know, obviously, that you're a member of the Indiana Economic Development Association, and that you're going to want to be talking to them from time to time about economic development issues, and ask to be a resource if they have questions about those types of things. Like we said earlier, if you're having an open house, for example, at your office, invite them over, let them see what's going on, make sure every statement that you send out, they also get copies of it. They get copies of it. If you're doing a grand opening where there's a ribbon cutting, make sure they're invited, those types of things. And you know, legislators will talk to the PTO or the other grassroots organizations. If you can get there, someone on your staff can get there, that's always going to be a very helpful thing.
So focusing on some tips when actually speaking to legislators, one must listen very carefully when asking for a vote. I'll think about it doesn't necessarily mean, yes, I'll vote for the bill, or no, I'm not going to vote for the bill. It's important to put the question direct to legislators, but also very important to listen carefully on what they say. In the course of your conversations with legislators, you may also be asked to provide additional information. Sometimes you won't have all the information they're asking for, or it may be a very fine point you're not certain about. In those cases, it's very important to reach back out to Lee Llewellyn, Kip, Lisa, or myself, your lobbying team, so that we can make those follow-ups with legislators. And also importantly, we need to preserve a feedback loop. Every time you reach out to a legislator, we need to hear how those conversations went. But if you reach out to them in writing, it's important to communicate to us any material response you get back from legislators. Kip?
It's also important that because the legislature moves at varying speeds, and the closer we get to the end, the more quickly it moves, that you respond to requests to contact your legislators in a timely fashion. Sometimes, and during a long session, it's a slower process. In a short session, it's a very rapid process. But it's important, if we're going to send out an alert that you need to contact a legislator, that you do that in as timely a fashion as you possibly can, because that information is critical feedback to us. It's critical feedback to how we're going to move forward. So please, it's very important that you try to follow those protocols. And don't worry too much about making too many contacts. The squeaky wheel has always gotten the grease. It will continue to get the grease as long as a legislature is a human endeavor. The other thing I would add that's on the slide, of course, is you want to keep your explanations as simple as possible. Remain pleasant and calm. Don't lose your temper. Don't get too exercised. Be very matter-of-fact about the information that you provide.
On the slide is some useful contact information to reach your legislators. We have the House and Senate switchboard numbers. We know many of you have legislators' cell phones, and feel free to reach out by those means, but these 800 numbers will allow you to reach your legislators. Don't be shy about leaving a message and asking for a call back. And for those of you who are not certain about who your legislators may be, or if you have a new legislator, you can visit the website on screen, plug in your address, and it will pop up all your elected officials.
Last thing, we can't overstate it enough. Having a strong grassroots organization that has someone in a district constantly communicating with a legislator is the best advocacy they are. We like to toot our own horns as your lobbyists in Indianapolis, but the fact is the best organizations in the state of Indiana, the ones that are the most effective, are the ones that have very good grassroots organizations. So you truly are the champions of your own domain.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope that you've learned something about how to help the Indiana Economic Development Association as we move forward in the next General Assembly and the ones following. Your interests are very important, and your participation is critical for us to be successful at the Indiana General Assembly. If after watching this you have any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to Mark or I. Our email should be scrolling across the screen as we speak.
Thanks for watching again. We do appreciate you taking time to learn about these tactics and strategies, and we'll ask you to put this into use during the next legislative session. Thanks again.